So what happened and why? Well, perhaps one answer lies in the numbers. In 2008, Barack Obama received 69 million votes and John McCain received 59 million. In 2016, Clinton and Trump both received 58 million. So the Republican turnout, the overall turnout, didn't change, but 11 million fewer people voted for the Democrats. Thomas Frank is the author of Listen, Liberal, with the subtitle Whatever Happened to the Party of the People. He argues that the working class roots of the Democratic movement have been betrayed by corporate and cultural elitism. And in the Guardian this morning, he elaborated on that in an article entitled Donald Trump is moving to the White House and Liberals put him there. He argues Democrats blew it, first with their disconnection from their own base and secondly with their candidate. Of Hillary Clinton, he says she was exactly the wrong candidate for this angry populist moment, an insider when the country was screaming for an outsider.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the problem. I mean, she ran as a kind of super technocrat, you know. She knew how to twist the dials and make everything work back in D.C., and that's not what the public was looking for. That's rarely what any public ever is looking for, but especially this time. I mean, this is yet another angry, hard times election in the United States, even though I know the economy looks good on paper these days. Still, a lot of people are, you know, especially white working class people, are very upset. They're watching their way of life slip away, and they want somebody to do something about it. And they are ready to sign up for a mass movement of outrage that is in some ways kind of similar to what they signed up for 8 years ago with Barack Obama.
And this is really interesting, and it feels to me like it's been ignored a little bit. If we look at the swing states, if we look at Florida, if we look at Ohio, they voted for Obama in 2008 and 2012. So people who were kind of reflexively saying this is racism are ignoring the fact that a lot of these people supported Obama last for 2 elections, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're looking for hope and change. Obama ironically, remains a very popular figure in a lot of these places. Had he been on the ballot, he probably would have won, you know. He's still a very inspiring figure. Hillary Clinton is not that. And not only is she not that, but she's married to the man who a lot of these voters regard as, you know, the great turncoat. The one who, you know, when the Democratic Party turned against working class people, they associate that with Bill Clinton and the various trade agreements that he got done, the bank deregulation. And they associate Hillary with that stuff. But, you know, there are a lot of racist voters in America, and by and large, they signed up for Donald Trump. But that's not enough to elect a man president, especially not on the terms that we just saw, not even close. He had something else going for him, and that was that in his kind of clumsy, tongue-tied, egotistical way, he was getting at the problem, the great big problem, the grievance that these people have against the world.
And what is the grievance they have against the world? You used the word outrage before. What are they outraged about?
Well, the middle class in this country is coming apart. So I wrote a story for The Guardian last week where I talked about a town in central Illinois where I spent a lot of time when I was younger, a place called Decatur, Illinois. I was down there in the 90s because they had a bunch of strikes, and I was writing about the strikes for a newspaper in Chicago. But in the 1940s, Decatur was regarded as the most average city in America, and sociologists would write about it. And one of the things they discovered was that people who owned the factories there made about twice as much as blue-collar workers, twice as much. Today they make about 400 times as much. And that sort of thing is happening all over this country, all over the United States. And meanwhile, you know, there's no job security anymore. Even if people aren't on the downward slide yet, they can see it coming. They can see it coming for their children who are deep in debt from college. And they can see what's happening to the workplace, that every job is being casualized. And people don't like it. I mean, it makes them furious. You know, the thing is, we had this great recession, financial crisis, which we brought to the world, and the upper part of America has recovered very nicely from that. They're doing great. You know, the wealthy parts of America are doing great. But your middle class, working class America has not seen a recovery. You know, and they are starting to understand that there's been a permanent change in the way the economy works for them, and they are lashing out in any way they can. And yes, a lot of them signed up for Barack Obama in 2008, and a lot of them signed up for this, and a lot of them signed up for Bernie Sanders too, by the way, who was kind of an interesting variation, you know, and who probably, I think, would have been president had the Democrats chosen him. But no, they couldn't do that, right? Had to be Hillary.
I read that article in The Guardian last week. The left behind are having their say. It was subtitled by The Guardian. And it, boy, if you read it again, it's strikingly prescient now, because you took stock of those people in those communities and their sense of having been left behind, to use that phrase. But if we go to Nevada, where the culinary union, and we spoke to them a couple of days ago in our preview to the election, were mobilizing 50,000 members against Trump. And the people in that union who have Trump as an employer hate him. I mean, they say he is the worst. They say he is right. So he is the worst employer in Nevada. They hate him. They were mobilizing. They were taking days off to campaign against him. So how on earth did blue-collar whites see him as the answer?
Well, that's the great paradox of American history. It's a massive, massive irony. And, you know, that there are union members who voted for this guy all over the country. And look, this has been building, this has been coming for a long, long, long time. The Democrats, the story of Listen Liberal is how this happened. You know, the Democrats turned their back on on working class people beginning in the 1970s, and increasingly more and more and more over the years, until now you have this, where it's just completely a lost cause. But it's fascinating that the Democrats have, by and large, been in denial that this is happening. They refuse to believe that it's happening because it doesn't make sense, you know, in a kind of in a logical way. There's so much about it that is so confusing and so paradoxical and so self-injuring. I don't think Trump is going to be particularly good for these people that have, you know, that a lot of these people that voted for him. You know, maybe he'll get some revision in the NAFTA agreement done, and maybe that'll be good. But by and large, no, he doesn't have a clue what to do for these people. He's not going to be good for them. This is a very dark day for people who care about progressive causes in the United States.
That's Thomas Frank. His book is Listen Liberal, and his op-ed commentary on all of this is in The Guardian, up on their website.